They call me a man of unshakable composure, a scientist so controlled under pressure that I once presented a failed 3-year study to a room of visibly furious donors without my voice cracking once. Ice water in my veins, my old advisor used to say. Nerves of absolute steel. Okay, no. Let's stop right there, because for 4 straight days after my father dragged me into a car in front of the only man I've ever actually loved, this supposedly unshakable scientist lay on a twin bed under a ceiling of glow-in-the-dark stars I put up when I was 12, refreshing a phone with 0 new messages on it, approximately 1,000 times an hour, doing what I can only clinically describe as marinating in shame. I am a neuroscientist. I know exactly what an obsessive behavior loop looks like from the outside. I was living directly inside one and doing absolutely nothing to intervene, which, professionally speaking, is malpractice. So that's where we pick up. Rock bottom, glow stars. A man who once explained the amygdala on command, now completely unable to explain himself to the one person who actually mattered. Let's fix that. Day 5, my childhood bedroom door opened without a knock, which in the Calloway household is basically a declaration of war. Get up, Naomi said, standing in the doorway, arms crossed, wearing the exact expression of a disappointed academic advisor watching you fail a defense you were fully capable of passing. I'm working through some things. You're lying on a twin bed under glow stars, marinating in shame. That's not working through anything. That's wallowing, and frankly, it's beneath you. Naomi Park drove 40 minutes on a weeknight to yell at me in my own childhood bedroom. In hindsight, this remains one of the single kindest things anyone has ever done for me. At the time, I mostly resented her cardio. She sat on the edge of the bed, and her tone shifted, actually gentle now, in a way I'd genuinely never heard from her. I spent 6 years hiding Sam from my parents, she said, because I was terrified of exactly this, the silence, the doorway, the getting in the car. You know what it got me? 6 years I don't get back. Don't do that math, Wes. Don't let it get to year 2. And there it was. The fake arranged marriage turning, without warning, into the realest advice I'd received in a decade. What if I say something and they actually cut me off? I said quietly. The lab, the funding, that's not just a job, that's 12 years of my life. Then you rebuild it, Naomi said, cutting in sharp and kind at the same time. With people who don't require you to disappear in order to keep loving you. I would rather have half a career, and Sam than a named chair, and a life I have to explain away at every dinner party for the rest of my existence. You get to choose what kind of successful you actually want to be, Wes. Nobody else gets that vote, I cried, in front of Naomi Park, on a twin bed under glow-in-the-dark stars. If you had told 19-year-old me that my future arranged marriage candidate would one day talk me off a ledge about a video game developer, I would have had you committed on the spot. And yet, here we were. I asked for a family dinner the next night. My mother nearly wept with joy, fully convinced I was finally coming to my senses. She had no idea what kind of senses were about to be involved. Glad you've had time to think, Wesley, my father said, pouring wine, pleased with himself. We can put all of this unpleasantness behind us. This unpleasantness. Like Milo was a rounding error in an otherwise flawless dataset, like the best 3 weeks of my entire adult life were contamination to be logged, disposed of, and never spoken of again. I stood up. My hands were shaking, and for the first time in my life, I let them shake in front of my parents instead of hiding them under the table like contraband. I'm not here to apologize, I said. I'm not marrying Naomi. I'm not reconsidering. And I'm done doing this. The performance, the 5-year plan, the version of me you keep introducing to people at dinner parties like a press release. Wesley. I love him, Mum. I love a guy who runs a gaming cafe and roasted me for planting corn in winter and noticed I was unhappy inside of a week, which is more than either of you managed in about 15 years. I'm not choosing him over my future. He's the first future I've ever actually wanted for myself. You know that thing where you rehearse a speech in your head for days, and then when you finally deliver it, It comes out messier and more real than you planned. That's what happened. It wasn't eloquent. It wasn't cinematic. It was just true, and true turned out to matter a great deal more than polished. If you walk out that door for this, my father said, cold, final, exactly as terrifying as I'd braced for my entire life. Don't expect the lab funding to follow you. Don't expect this family's name attached to your work ever again. You'll be starting over completely. Here's the thing about growing up terrified of disappointing your parents. You build this whole internal alarm system for exactly this moment, and you assume when it finally goes off, you'll fall apart. I didn't fall apart. I felt for the first time in my entire controlled, mapped-out, color-coded life free. Okay, I said, quiet, steady. Then I'm starting over. I walked out. Naomi was already waiting in the driveway, engine running, hazard lights on because, and I will love this woman platonically until the day I die, she had known I'd need a getaway car before I did. So, Naomi said, driving, matter-of-fact as ever. Grand gesture. What's the plan? There isn't one. I burned my entire life down about 90 seconds ago, Naomi. I have a car and a mild panic attack. That's the current plan. Wrong. You have a video game developer who streams to an audience that already loves him and already knows exactly who you are, because every single one of his 40 devoted feral chat members has been asking, where's the doctor guy for 4 straight days? And there it was. The idea. Because showing up at Milo's door with flowers wouldn't have meant anything to him. Grand romantic gestures built for movies don't land the same for a guy who lives his whole life through screens, headphones, and carefully coded worlds. If I wanted to actually reach him, I had to speak his language, not mine. I needed a co-op partner. Luckily, I had an entire lab full of overqualified nerds who owed me favors. Turns out neuroscience PhD students are, secretly, some of the best coders on planet Earth. And every single one of mine dropped what they were doing at 11 p.m. on a Thursday to help me build the single dumbest, most sincere thing I have ever created in my life, a custom mod for the exact cozy indie farming game where I once, tragically, historically, planted corn in the dead of winter. Okay, so when his character walks up to the fence, it'll trigger the text box, one research assistant said, typing furiously. Wait, another one cut in, dead serious. Does the goat need a line? I feel like Kevin needs a line. Kevin absolutely needs a line, I said, and I want the record to reflect that this was, without question, the most important sentence I had ever spoken in that lab. We built it in 6 hours, powered entirely by gas station coffee and the specific, focused adrenaline of a man trying to win back the only good thing that had ever happened to him. Naomi, meanwhile, was in the corner of my lab at midnight, quietly messaging Milo's community moderators, because it turns out academics know academics, and one of his mods had once been her TA. Small, ridiculous world. He's streaming tomorrow at 8, she said, hanging up her phone, smug beyond words. It's a go. I watched the stream load from Naomi's laptop the next night, hands actually shaking now, because unlike the dinner table speech, this part had an audience of strangers, and, somewhere behind a webcam, the actual love of my life, who currently believed I'd chosen silence over him. Milo looked tired. Not dramatic tired, quiet tired, the specific kind you get from turning your phone off and pretending you're fine for 4 days straight. All right, chat, he said on stream, flat, going through the motions. Cozy farm game, low stakes. We're just going to vibe. That was my cue. I logged in under my old, deeply embarrassing gamer tag, walked my little pixel farmer straight up to his in-game fence, and let 6 hours of frantic coding do the talking for me. Hi, I know I'm bad at this game. I know I'm bad at seasons, and corn, and apparently at saying the right thing at the right time in front of my parents. I got in the car because 29 years of being scared of disappointing them is a hard habit to break in real time. But I broke it. Last night. Loudly. Possibly permanently. I don't want the 5-year plan. I want gas station pizza and Kevin the Goat and falling asleep on your couch during a movie neither of us finish. I'm sorry I went quiet when you needed me loud. I'm here now. I'm staying loud. The chat exploded instantly. Wait, is this the doctor guy? Dr. Guy's back. Milo, say something. Somebody get the tissues. Kevin supports this. On screen, Milo went completely, utterly silent. In real life, apparently, so did he. His camera just sat there, frozen, one hand over his mouth, headphones half off, while 40 strangers screamed at him in text on his behalf. Then, after what felt like 9 full academic years, his in-game character walked up next to mine. Kevin says you still owe him a proper apology for the corn thing. I say, my door's still 2 blocks from your lab. It was always 2 blocks from your lab. You know where to find me, Dr. Korn. I did not wait for the stream to end. I grabbed Naomi's car keys, ignored her yelling, "At least let me drive you," and ran 2 blocks in the freezing dark like a man who had, for once in his entire overachieving life, finally figured out the correct experiment to run. He was already standing in the doorway when I got there, hoodie, headphones around his neck. Exactly like the very first night, except this time he wasn't confused about who I was. This time he knew everything, and he opened the door anyway. "Took you long enough," he said, soft, trying and failing to sound unbothered. I had to code an entire video game mod first, in my defense. Yeah, that tracks. Total scientist move. Collect the data before you say the actual words. So I said the actual words, right there in the doorway, in front of absolutely nobody but him. "I love you. I should have said it in front of my parents. I'm saying it now, in front of you, which honestly matters a lot more." "I love you too," he said, quiet, sure, finally pulling me in. "Even when you plant corn in winter. Especially when you plant corn in winter." We kissed in a doorway 2 blocks from my lab, in the freezing cold, while somewhere out in the world 40 strangers in a stream chat were losing their entire collective minds, and Kevin the Goat, I checked later, picked up over 400 comments of his own. Fame. Genuinely earned. Fast forward a few months. I'd love to tell you my parents came around gracefully, that everyone hugged it out over a tasteful brunch with mimosas and closure. That's not what happened. What happened is slower, messier, and everyone who's been through it tells me a lot more real. My father sent 1 email. 3 weeks later, 4 sentences long, mostly about lab equity paperwork, which, in Richard Calloway's love language, is basically a white flag. My mother started forwarding me articles about understanding your adult child's choices that she absolutely did not write, and did not at the time fully understand. But she was trying, in her own overproduced, slightly too late way. We're rebuilding. Slowly. On my terms this time, which is, frankly, the whole plot twist right there. I moved my lab notebook, and 3 weeks after that myself, into Milo's apartment. Pixel, the cat, has accepted me as furniture. Kevin the Goat is, and I cannot stress this enough, thriving. Naomi and Sam come over every Thursday for what Milo insists on calling co-op night, and what my mother would generously call an inappropriate use of a weeknight. "Wes," Milo called from the kitchen the other night. "Come feed the goat. It's spring in the game now, so, no excuses this time." 29 years of being the perfect son taught me how to win awards, publish papers, and disappoint literally no one but myself. It took 1 guy in a hoodie, 1 badly timed video game confession, and 1 former arranged marriage candidate turned best friend to teach me the only research result that ever actually mattered. You don't get a good ending by controlling every variable. You get it by finally letting someone see the real experiment. "Okay," I said, grabbing the controller, sitting down next to him. "Show me the corn." "It's literally labeled Wes." "Show me anyway." The end. If you love this story, or this story made you laugh, made your heart race, or gave you butterflies even once, do me one small favor. Hit the like button. It tells YouTube that this is a story worth sharing, and it helps more BL fans discover this little corner of the internet. And that's what keeps me going. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because I upload brand new BL stories filled with romance, comedy, drama, and plenty of heart. And if you know someone who would absolutely obsess over this story, share it with them. I'd love to know what you thought too. Who was your favorite character? What was your favorite scene? Or tell me what kind of BL story you want me to bring to life next. I read your comments, and a lot of my future stories are inspired by what you ask for. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you, Zaddies, in the next story.